Mitchell is riding shotgun with us, a great political analyst. Millions and millions of folks follow his great work. And we're covering the waterfront here today. This just broke. FBI Disciplinary Office recommends firing former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. And then it goes into the fact that he basically misled investigations and covered up what was going on. This is just huge. And again, this just broke. Andrew McCabe in July, when he was still acting FBI Director, the FBI office that handles employees' discipline and recommended firing the Bureau's former Deputy Director over allegations that he authorized the disclosure of sensitive information to a reporter and misled investigators when he was asked about it, leaving Attorney General Jeff Sessions to decide whether he should fire veteran official just 4 days before his suspected retirement date. People familiar with the matter said, this is huge. We already knew this from the congressional hearings, but they didn't want to give us classified info. They would say, I wonder if we're going to find out. Jim Jordan and others would say that this happened. Well, of course, he ran the whole fake PP Gate operation. He ran the people under him. He sent the money over. His wife got money from Hillary. He sent the money to pay for the fake dossier. Then he covered it up. Then he told the president he was fighting it and lied to him and then leaked to the press. And all this is coming out. This is incredible, Bill Mitchell.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been a little bit different in my opinion on my show on this whole Mueller thing, the whole thing with Sessions and so on and so forth. We've held, and this is really outside the mainstream, but we still hold this position, that this entire thing has actually been a very elaborate, very secretive sting operation to out deep state and indict Hillary and maybe even Barack Obama. I've been a businessman for 30 years. And I always judge a person's motives by their results. If somebody's telling me one thing, but they're getting something else, I think, something else is going on here. So we see that Mueller has come in, okay, and this is pretty much his last rodeo on the big national stage, right? So he comes in and he appoints the most partisan group of lawyers you'd ever seen. Now, if he wanted to come across as a nonpartisan, even-handed guy, why would he do that? It seems very odd to me. Also, Sessions, who was one of the most effective senators and most beloved senators, all of a sudden becomes the attorney general, and he hides and he seems weak. It's also out of character.
Sure, that's so when they pounce on him, it looks very legitimate. And I didn't believe this 6 months ago when SG Silver Bull and all those guys were saying it. But more and more, once these new indictments came out, and a bunch of it's about Democrats and stuff, it starts to add credence to that.
The results. We're saying, so who's in trouble now? What's happened as a result? What has happened to Donald Trump? Step back. What has happened to Donald Trump as a result of the Russia investigation? He's been exonerated. If they had never had a special prosecutor, this would hang over his head like the sword of Damocles for the next 8 years. Okay? But he's been exonerated on Russia completely. I mean, he has had a year-long colonoscopy and come up absolutely clean on this thing, okay? But deep state's in trouble. Deep state's being exposed. We never would have heard about these text messages and all this other stuff if it wasn't for Mueller's investigation. So on a basis of results, we're seeing this come out. And then you'll hear that people, even very inside Trump's circle, say, oh, no. He's really angry at Sessions. He's really mad at these things. I'm like, well, if this was a sting and your White House was leaking like a sieve, wouldn't you try to give everybody that impression? Wouldn't you try to set that up? So I think when all this is said and done, that Jeff Sessions deserves an Academy Award for the best role as a reluctant warrior in the history of Earth. And I think that come maybe the middle of this year, when it's most useful for the midterms, he's going to start to put the hammer down on these guys.
Well, I'll tell you one reason this narrative is important, whether it was accurate in the beginning or not. If Mueller wants to stop being a traitor and stop covering up for the Clintons and their crimes like he did and like Comey did, I know he has a good military record and all that, but I mean, they covered up for bad stuff. This gives him a chance to roll over and look like he was always doing the right thing. And I agree, though, that Trump, this has given him the ability to smoke out all these other criminals. And that's the way it's going, because Hillary blamed him for Russia because she was involved with Russia. So one way or the other, it's turning out that way. So how do you predict this is going to end, and what's your timeline?
I'm just guessing on the timeline. I'm just going with my gut on this. I think sometime in the summer, in the run-up to the midterms, that's when we're going to start to see indictments come down on these people. So we'll see how it goes on that. Here's the thing. It's all about timing. You don't want to be like the football team that's playing your best football in the 12th week of the season, and then you fade by the playoffs. You want to peak right at the right time. And I think that the usefulness of these things, of an indictment of Hillary and all these guys, the biggest political usefulness is that the base wants to feel like when they voted for Trump, it made a difference. It made a difference. And if we can get these indictments and carry these into the midterms and get justice, because Hillary will probably spend a week in some minimum security prison and then clutch her chest and get out on some medical leave or something like that. So I'm not thinking she's going to spend life in prison or anything. But the political upside is that if the base feels like they got justice, that is a huge.
No, you're absolutely right. That would mean an even bigger sweep and keep the trifecta of the legislative, the executive, and the judicial in place and really restore the republic. And my Pentagon sources and others that we know helped win the election for the American people because they were aware that we were going under Chinese control, globalist control fully. They were going to end free speech. You still got the Hillary group trying to finish their old plan as if she never lost, Madam President. But it's two conflicting worldviews. And if you look at how Trump is obsessed with building the wall, cutting the taxes, doing the things he said he would do, then if he said, yeah, you need to go to prison, we're going to lock you up, that means that's what is being angled for Bill Mitchell. But how do you think the empire will strike back? How do you think the deep state will strike back? Or are they so hubris-filled they haven't figured out what's closing in on them yet?
Oh, I think that one of the, anytime you have a sting, you want to get people inside the other team's operation and make them think they're your friend. And the media spent so much time praising Jeff Sessions. Oh, that's a great guy, blah, blah, he's standing up against Trump, all this stuff. So when Jeff flips on him, they're going to look very, very foolish coming out suddenly against him after praising him so much. Or if Mueller goes against Hillary and those guys, they're going to have a hard time attacking him. But I've always thought that the key in this whole thing is Comey. And then Mueller may have been chosen because he's the one guy who could flip Comey because Comey trusts him. Okay? So there were a lot of things in Comey's testimony that were really head-scratching moments where, he's just giving that testimony and he's suddenly offering all this information that nobody even asked him about.
Sure, and he comes out and admits that he was the leaker.
Right. Why would he do that? Any lawyer would be, throwing his shoe at the TV set. It's like, shut up.
Well, sure. And remember how he covered up for Hillary, but then he exposed it and brought it back out days before the election.
Right. And then we learned that Mueller actually coached him before that. So that's what makes me think that something's going on here. There's a sting going on here. Now, how will the deep state react? I think that by taking so long in this, I think that Jeff Sessions is putting together an ironclad case. So
I get it. And waiting so it's fresh in the midterms. I know you've been saying this for a year, and others have. I don't know who was the progenitor of this, but I got to tell you, more and more it's looking like it could be real.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Are you the progenitor of this theory?
Let me put it this way. I didn't come up with this because I read it somewhere else. So in my mind, I'm the progenitor of it, but I know other people have been thinking this as well. So I don't want to say that I was the first one and then somebody goes back and does a Twitter search and somebody else says something.
Sure, so, the point is this is what, regardless, this thing blew up in Hillary's face. This whole Russiagate thing is now an albatross around their neck. We'll be back with Bill Mitchell to talk more about censorship, how do we fight it, the Russia situation, and more.
Someone very profoundly once said, many years ago, that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Criminal elements inside the government, the deep state, are working with the media with fake news and fake leaks to try to undermine Trump's recovery. That's really the big news.
A soft coup is underway right here in the United States of America in an attempt to overturn November's election results and forcibly remove a duly elected president from office. Sinister forces quickly aligning in what is becoming now, in my mind, a clear and present danger.
When you see leaders on the left calling for essentially rising up, and they allow for Antifa to do all the violence that they do, and then you have the beheading of the president virtually by Kathy Griffith, and this play where the President Trump is killed, and you have a certain percentage of the population who's going to buy into that, who become completely desensitized, become completely radicalized, and act.
A gunman opened fire on members of Congress and their staffs.
In the hours after 5 people were shot, including the House Majority Whip, you sent out a tweet that said, "Hunt Republicans." I mean, it was clearly a reference to the assassination attempt against Congressman Scalise. It's hard to imagine how you could justify writing something like that.
For too long, Republicans in this country have failed to distinguish the differences between politics and war. And a lot of Democrats have failed to see the similarities. So you guys either have to tone down the rhetoric or we have to step up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much proof of the Democrats saying, overthrow Trump, use COG, kill him, kill his supporters, cancel the last election, remove the Republicans that were elected in the last 2016 election. I mean, I've got the mainstream articles here where they're pushing it.
Here in America, we're at a turning point tonight with forces now forming an alliance to try and remove President Trump from office. It's that serious.
The left-wing media is out to get him. They are out to nullify an election for the first time.
America is now suffering from a massive informational crisis because I call them the Destroy Trump media, has routinely been exposed now. Agenda-driven, propagandist, more than happy to push, debunk, tinfoil hat conspiracy theories.
Sean Hannity is currently the main leader of the resistance against the globalist outside of Trump, and then, of course, myself. But I am more grassroots, and I'm more frontline, being demonized, being attacked. It's my job to get the intel out, to take the main attack, to draw the enemy fire, so that we understand exactly what we're dealing with.
You've got the Destroy Trump media that has been lying to you now, provable lies for 11 months, nonstop. Trump, Russia, collusion. No evidence whatsoever.
The Russians, in my opinion, could not have known how best to weaponize that information unless they had been guided. And they began to have some of their allies within the internet world, like InfoWars, take out pieces and began to say the most outrageous, outlandish, absurd lies you can imagine.
You have RT, you have Sputnik, you have Rupley, and then I think you have them feeding other entities. InfoWars comes to mind, where those are echo chambers.
The way that the left is going about trying to demonize the president, essentially justify and ignore the violence on their side, and then reinforce that with a complete the imagery of death being acceptable. Kathy Griffith using the beheaded image of the president. All these things are the same way ISIS goes about radicalizing and recruiting people to become terrorists.
This is unprecedented to have a president that behaves this way. Can anyone go back in history?
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
It's a sad day when you cannot depend on the president's word. And my advice would just be to Republicans who do cozy up to him, it's just like hugging a suicide bomber.
He's not a tough guy. He's a bully and he's a bitch.
He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig.
And he can suck my
He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt.
I'll meet him in a hotel room any other day of the week and give him a Louisville slugger.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Kiss my mother ass, you bitch punk sucker.
Pointing what appears to be a water gun at the image of President Donald Trump projected on a whiteboard, our teacher Pale Modi has now been seen by countless viewers across the internet.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage.
Pictures and video depicting comedian Kathy Griffin holding the bloody, decapitated head of President Trump are no joking matter for the Secret Service.
The rhetoric that has inspired the violence has come from the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
They're involved in the coup, an active attempt to start a bloody civil war.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Fuel your body with Carnivore, the new digestive enzyme product by InfoWars Life. Digestive enzymes assist in the digestion process and increase the bioavailability of nutrients by breaking down foods into easily absorbable components. They also help prevent discomfort from indigestion caused by fermentation of undigested food particles in the gut. Digestive enzyme production declines as we age. Carnivore is filled with digestive enzymes like those naturally present in the body. Enjoy the full potential of protein-rich foods again. You can eat protein-heavy foods now while minimizing the later indigestion and discomfort commonly associated with high-meat diets. Just one pill with every high-protein meal helps increase the bioavailability and absorption of amino acids, the building blocks to your muscles. Carnivore also contains digestive enzymes to help digest fats and carbohydrates so you can fully digest all types of meals. Don't let a meal go to waste. Use Carnivore by InfoWars Life. Head to InfoWarsLife.com and secure your bottle now. That's InfoWarsLife.com.